You ever stare at a math problem and your brain just kind of freezes up? Today, we're going to tackle a question from a real GCSE paper that looks tough, but it's actually all about a skill you use every single day. We're talking about the power of estimation. Let's dive in.
All right, so here's our challenge. Imagine Sophie's driving through France. She's going 513 kilometers, and for every 10 kilometers she drives, she has to pay a toll of 0.81 euros. Now, the most important word in this whole question is estimate. We just need to figure out roughly how much this trip is going to cost her.
And here's the kicker, the number one rule of the game: no calculators allowed. Now, that might sound scary, but trust me, it's not meant to be mean, it's a huge clue. When an exam says estimate and no calculator, it's basically shouting at you to make the numbers simpler. So, where do we start? Well, the first, most crucial step is to take those awkward, messy numbers and trade them in for something much, much friendlier. Let's simplify this whole thing. So, what exactly is estimation? It's all about finding an answer that's usefully close to the real one, but without all the headache of complicated math. The goal here isn't perfection, it's about being smart and efficient. First up, let's look at that distance, 513 kilometers. Now, come on, try to multiply or divide by 513 in your head. That's just asking for trouble. So we're not even going to try. The question we need to ask ourselves is, what's a simple, clean number that's nearby? A friendly number. And what makes a number friendly? Zeros. The best numbers for this kind of thing end in a zero, or even better, a couple of them. And there we have it. Our first move is to just round that 513 down to a much nicer 500 kilometers. It's close enough for an estimate, and it's going to make the next part so much easier to handle. Okay, on to our second number. The cost per 10 kilometers is 0.81 euros. Again, that 0.81 is just a bit clunky for a quick calculation, isn't it? So, you know the drill. We're going to do the same thing. We'll just round that 0.81 down to 0.8. It's a really small change, but it turns a tricky decimal multiplication into something way more manageable. All right, the prep work is done. Now that we've got our simple numbers, 500 kilometers and 0.8 euros, we can actually do the math. And honestly, this is the easy part. Let's tackle this in 2 clear steps, which is always a good idea to show your work in an exam. First, we need to figure out how many 10-kilometer chunks are in our new estimated distance. Then, we just multiply that answer by our new estimated cost. Step 1 is a piece of cake. 500 divided by 10 is 50. Easy. So we're estimating that Sophie is going to pay that toll 50 times during her trip. And now for the grand finale. We need to work out 50 times 0.8 euros. So what's a quick way to do that in your head? Well, you could just do 50 times 8, which is 400. And then, since it was actually 0.8, you just divide your answer by 10. So 400 divided by 10 gives us our final answer, 40 euros. And that is it. A solid, well-thought-out estimate for the cost of her trip. Done. But hold on, we're not quite done yet. Part B of the question is a classic. It asks, is your answer an underestimate or an overestimate? And you have to explain why. This is where you get to prove you really understand what you just did. To figure this out, let's just put our numbers side by side. On one side, you have the original exact numbers, and on the other, you have the nice rounded numbers we actually use to do our calculation. The key is to look at which direction we went when we rounded. We took the distance, 513, and went down to 500. We took the cost, 0.81, and we also went down to 0.8. So since both of the numbers we multiplied together were smaller than the real numbers, well, that brings us to the perfect full marks answer. Our final answer has to be smaller than the real answer, so our estimate is an underestimate. The reason? Because both the distance and the cost were rounded down. Simple as that. It's logical, clear, and exactly what the examiner's looking for. Okay, let's zoom out for a second. Why does any of this matter outside of an exam? Well, because estimation is honestly one of the most practical, real-world math skills you will ever use. I guarantee you use it all the time. When you're checking your shopping receipt to see if it looks about right, or splitting a dinner bill with friends, or trying to figure out if you have enough time to get somewhere. That's all estimation. It's the skill that helps you make quick, smart decisions every day. So here's a little challenge for you. Just pay attention this week and notice all the times a quick back-of-the-envelope calculation could come in handy. You'll probably be surprised how often you do it without even thinking. Thanks for joining me for this one.